Anyway, so at first, before I found out, what C was doing to me, when I broke up with her, she and I guess, were like, I don't know, she and I were like acquaintances. I don't know if you would call them acquaintances because we weren't really like friends, to be honest, because we weren't like, I wasn't very nice to her and she was abusive towards me. So it's like, I felt like mutually we didn't really like each other very much. So I wouldn't really call it like a genuine, true friendship. I would call it maybe like an acquaintance or an associate, a business associate or something like that. Because we had like I couldn't before I cut her off, I couldn't really like cut her off completely because there was like debt that she and I had to handle together. So I did have to keep in contact with her, even though it started to become clear that she was very abusive. There were some things that I needed her signature on. There were some things that, you know, business wise, money wise, it required the both of us, the both of our participation. So during this process, I saw Al from like a very far away distance. But like I said, he was too far to where I couldn't confront him. I couldn't approach him. And he was always in a car. So it got to the point where when me and Sierra stopped talking, and I pretty much like blocked her completely. All financial obligations were taken care of, and everything was settled, and I no longer needed to be in contact with her. When I cut her off, he started getting closer proximity wise. He started getting a lot closer. Um, and then I started noticing that he started uh like the pop ups. He would start doing that more frequently, and I was confused because I was like, man, like he sure is popping up a lot. So moving forward, it's gotten to the point where I've realized that Al is a cop. I find out that he's a cop, and he's pretty much abusing his power as a police officer. He's pulling me over. He's writing tickets. He's sending me to jail for trumped up charges. I mean, every time something goes wrong, he's always popping up in uniform. So this I started noticing this. He starts, trespassing me from certain places. So I can't go to certain places anymore because I've been trespassed. Like I said, he started following me. He started breaking into my home. Um, he would break into my home every night for, I don't honestly, I would say about probably about five, somewhere between 5 to 6 years. He had been like breaking into my home every night, and I had to change the locks. I had to really like do a lot to get him to stop coming breaking into my home. And it was just getting to the point where I had to start calling the police on him. I mean, because fighting him off, it wasn't enough anymore, because he was very powerful. He was a police officer. You see what I mean? That you see the situation that the difficult situation that puts me in as a black woman, having to deal with an ex-boyfriend that's a cop, that has male privilege on top of white privilege, right? And he's a police officer. So if he wants to find me, he wouldn't have to do much to find me. All he would need to do is type my name into the database and find out my full name, if I've changed my name, where I live, where I work. And he abused that power. He would show up to my job. He would cause scenes. He would make it very difficult for my coworkers and my manager, my bosses. He would get me fired from my job. He would get me put out of a home. I mean, he's not the only person that was doing this. Sierra was doing this as well, but I'm talking about Al right now. So he would do a lot. He would follow me around every day. He would destroy property. He would destroy my property. He would steal my clothes. He would just he I mean, he really wasn't the problem in comparison to Sierra, but he did cause enough damage in my life to where I could no longer be silent about his abuse anymore. Um, I actually ended up, it got to the point where, my resistance towards not speaking, or my resistance towards no contact, I guess it was starting to pay off in certain areas because a lot of his friends did reach out to me at some point, and they were, kind of telling me that they had to cut him off. And at first they didn't tell me why, and I didn't really investigate because I didn't feel like it was any of my business, because like I said, I had moved on at that point when I accepted that, okay, um, I broke up with him. I can't be his friend because clearly there's some tension. So I'm just gonna have to, peacefully kind of let him go, let him know, like, hey, he was just one of those people where I don't know if for those who know him personally, they know, like, Al is just not somebody that you could just cut off and ghost. Like, there's some people that you can kind of slowly back out of their life and they don't take it personally. They understand. It's like they respect you kind of bowing out gracefully without causing problems, without, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just people out there where you slowly exit their life and they accept it. You know what I'm saying? And they're mature about it and they're respectful about it. But Al is not one of those people that you can just slowly back away from, or go no contact with. He's one of those tough personalities where you would be forced to tell him that, hey, I can't talk to you no more. Like, it's like he's very assertive. Um, Sometimes he can be a bit possessive, and because of that, at least speaking for myself, I've had to actually tell him that I didn't want to be his friend anymore, and that's understandable. Some people are just like that. You got to tell them. And he was one of those people where I kind of had to sit him down and, like, tell him, hey, I can't be your friend anymore. Like, I know, like, with narcissists, they say that's not a wise idea, but with some people, they do not take being ghosted very well, and they end up being way worse. He was just one of those people, unfortunately for me. So even though he was a narcissist, and it's never wise to tell a narcissist that you're about to cut them off, in this particular case, with C and with Al, they were two narcissists that, when I tried to bow out gracefully and I tried to walk away and not make it so obvious, they started to get crazy. But more specifically, Al was like, he was that person I had to tell him, hey man, I can't be your friend no more, man. And it was like, and the reason why I say that is because his friends actually, like, really kind of went out of their way to reach out to me and tell me, like, no, I actually had to tell him because I recommended them try the same thing that I was trying. And they were telling me, like, no, I had to cut him off. Like, I had to tell him, like, I had to just, like, brutally cut him off. Like, I had to. Some of them told me that they had to either ghost him, or some of them have told me that they had to sit him down and tell him. I guess it just varied, but they had to do one of the two. And with narcissists, especially when they have a hard time letting someone go, you're gonna have to rip the band-aid off at some point. So whether it's telling them, hey, I'm cutting you off, or brutally cutting them off, there's some narcissists that when you cut them off, no matter how you do it, they're gonna be crazy regardless. Because there's some narcissists that are just, they're pure evil and they're parasitic to the core. Now, with this case with Al in general, let me reiterate. he really he was the problem at first, but now not as much as Sierra.